it's hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello there.
Welcome back to the Space Gulag. Today we're doing What If Earth Was in Star Wars, Part 1 of 3. Before we begin this video, special thanks to our patrons, voice actors, and everyone else part of my team. Want a chance to win a free lightsaber in the next giveaway? Watch to the end of the video, I'll tell you exactly how you can win. Our story begins in the ancient world on a small blue planet in the mid-rim. It was part of the Copernican system. In the desert there was a small kingdom divided by two powers. In the southernmost power there was Heraclopolis, and in the northernmost power there was Thebes. The current divide of the first intermediate period was the transition of powers from a fragile monarchy to the people. The small region had just begun its expansion into empire building. The collection of slaves and the construction of massive structures were in the plans for the coming years. That was until a small vessel crash-landed. Out of the ship came an assortment of individuals. These individuals had much more technology than those from the small globe in the Copernican system. The leader of the group wore armor and robes, and he stood very tall. His name was Master Rego Thif, and he was leading a group of Jedi across the galaxy to escape the Sith Lord who had just conquered the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. Rego had a group of Jedi Knights with him, and under him was his personal Padawan, Mioni Skyko. Master Thif felt terrible for his student. She was under extraordinary amount of stress. Everyone was, but Mioni was in the middle of her trials when the Jedi Temple was attacked. Master Thif was leading member on the Jedi High Council, and he was under the understanding that he needed to get as many Jedi out of the temple before it fell. Many Jedi had different locations to go to. Master Satil Shan was directed to go to Alderaan in the core, but he recently lost contact with her and her squad, being under the assumption that Lord Malgus of the Sith invaded Alderaan and burnt the planet to the ground. Master Thif couldn't imagine anything worse happening to Alderaan. It was such a lovely world. Master Thif told his student and the other knights to wait in the vessel while he and his astromech droid T-791 investigated the local area. The Jedi and the few Republic troops that landed on the planet would set up a perimeter on the nearby river until Master Thif returned. The Jedi Master and his astromech found a dirt trail that spun around the sand towards the gates of the towering city. It was by no means a modern city, by Coruscant standards at the very least, but the architecture was incredible. T-791 beeped at her owner, and Master Thif nodded his head. The little droid informed him that she was picking up no signal on the radars. Thif noted that it was oddly peculiar that there wasn't any signals coming from the planet. Most if not a few planets in the mid-rim had a civilized population that was able to travel throughout the galaxy, with representation in Coruscant. Though Master Thif noted that he never heard of the system until they arrived on it. While they walked forwards, they noticed a group of people carrying massive blocks towards the city. Behind them were a couple of men with whips cracking them away whenever someone faltered in line. The Jedi instincts inside of Master Thif kicked in, but he stopped himself, informing 91 that they needed to get inside the city gates and learn about where they were and if they could hold refuge here until they could return to Coruscant. Thif knew that the Sith would likely arrive to the system, especially if they had no issue besieging the planet of Alderaan. Surely the Sith would be here to do the same. Once the slaves disappeared to the city, Master Thif and 91 made their way in front of the city, to which an armed guard came out to greet them. 91 translated everything they said into Galactic Common so that Thif could understand what they were saying to him. Essentially, they were confused as to why someone was wearing material that only upper-class citizens were allowed to wear, when he clearly wasn't an upper-class citizen. Assuming that a slave had risen up and stolen from someone, Thif responded back telling them that he wasn't from the system and that he was here on purpose of peace. The elite guard didn't take too kindly to this, assuming that he was insulting Ra, one of their numerous gods. Master Thif stepped back as the elite guard raised their spears. They were already on edge because of the astromech, having never seen something so high-tech before. Being that Thif was still standing tall, they still perceived him as a threat. Thif ignited his lightsaber and the guard was left in shock. One of the guardsmen swung for Master Thif, and the Jedi Master stepped aside and cut the spear into pieces before raising his blade into his formed 4 stance. The guardsman panicked and ran away. Thif looked at the droid, shrugging his shoulders, suggesting that this would be more difficult than he would like it to be. The heat of the desert was unbearable, as Thif and 91 made their way into Thebes, getting an assortment of looks from everyone. 91 beeped at Thif, and informed him that the Palace of Power seemed to be directly ahead, based on its structure and its prominence in the city itself. Thif agreed, and the two of them made their way there. They were going to make attempts to make friends with these locals, so that they could defend them in case the Sith came. For the most part, Master Thif believed that they could return to this planet after they defeated the Sith and help it into the future, but that would come later. When they arrived at the palace, an army of men presented themselves forward, ready for a fight. Thif bit his lip. He saw the same guardsmen from the front gate, with some governmental officials. Thif ignited his lightsaber once more and told 91 to translate what he said, telling the guardsmen that he wasn't there for war. He was here because this planet was in severe danger. The Egyptians looked around at each other, as a few governmental officials stepped forward, asking what danger. Thif explained as best he could, telling them that he was a Jedi. They were defenders of justice and bringers of peace in the galaxy. The Sith attacked them on Coruscant and destroyed everything. The Jedi had been separated throughout the galaxy, and because of this separation, the Sith had been burning down civilizations to the ground and hunting the Jedi. If the Egyptians didn't allow the Jedi to stay and defend them, then the Sith would do the same thing to them. The Egyptians took in this information and then told Master Thif that if he could provide proof of their struggle, then they would be allowed to stay in Thebes for the time being. They could take up refuge with them. Thif nodded his head and turned on his transmitter, requesting Mioni to bring a handful of troops to their location with some holograms, then asking her to send Commander Nej Vondun and the rest of the Jedi and the Republic troopers around the globe to see if any other civilizations existed. If they did, he wanted them to make contact with them and report their findings. Eventually, Mioni Skyko and the troops would arrive. She saw her master surrounded by guardsmen, but the situation seemed to be under his control. Mioni gave her master the hologram they received from Tython in the destruction of the Jedi on that planet. She also gave him hologram of some of the damage done to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant before they left. The group went inside the main building, and they showed off the details of their feat. The Egyptians were blown away, to say the least. Sure, they figured out a lot with so little technology on their own world, but the technology they were witnessing before their very eyes wasn't even within centuries of being discovered. It was several thousands of years away of being discovered. The Egyptians told the Jedi that the Republic troops were welcome to stay, under one condition, the condition that they be given the technology and shown how to utilize it for productivity. Master Thif didn't see an issue with this. He could feel the fact that the Force was strong here on Earth too. This planet was rich with its connection to the Force, and there was a chance that there would be children of the Force present on the planet as well. Thif also believed that Earth deserved a shot at being a part of the Republic, though it had a lot of modernization it needed to go through. Without said modernization, Earth would never be able to successfully trade intergalactically. Rego noted that the people of Earth would need to unlearn their slaving techniques as it wasn't supported by the government of the Republic, but he believed that to be something that would be discussed in the future. For now, Rego needed to make sure his troops and the Jedi got themselves situated. While they did that, Master Thif and the Thebes officials walked around the town, so that Thif could understand the key locations within the city. Thif was scouting out because if the Sith came and landed remotely near them, then he'd have to evacuate the city to Heracropolis. Across the globe, the Republic troopers would land in the ancient city of Zhengzhou, only to be greeted by the Emperor Tai Kang. The Emperor was much more initially welcoming than the guardsmen in Egypt, as if he'd been expecting them, but the Emperor connected with the Jedi quicker than they realized, because they were interested in the Emperor's brother more than him. The brother was very obviously connected with the Force, but once the Jedi got over the brother's connection to the Force, they realized that the Emperor himself was very deeply connected to the Force as well. For months, the Jedi would begin to integrate themselves on Earth, because they were still unable to leave. During this time, the Jedi were able to connect the Thebes to Zhengzhou and to the rest of the Shai dynasty. Nothing like the Silk Road, but it was essentially a bare-bones ability to communicate with a hologram and a translator so that the Egyptians could communicate with the Chinese. This expanded to several other small civilizations building up across the globe. Master Thif spent time in Thebes and in Zhengzhou with Emperor Kang and his brother, because truthfully both the Emperor and his brother had a very good connection with the Force, and it was enough of a connection to warrant them to be welcomed to the Jedi Order. Master Thif was contacted by Jedi Master Satil Shan. She informed Thif that Alderaan fell, but she believed that she defeated Darth Malgus, informing him that the Sith Lord got into a fight with her and she buried him under a mountain. She believed the Republic was reforming. There was hope for the galaxy, as she asked her fellow Jedi Master for his coordinates so that they could pick him up and his troops. Thif sent out the coordinates and informed her of everything he'd been through in the last couple of months, filling her in about the civilizations of Earth and with how the right technology they could become a very useful ally in the Republic. While Master Shan had no issue with this, she believed that months away from the war made Master Thif forget the importance of the war that sat on their doorstep. The communication ended abruptly. Thif was rather disappointed. He understood that the war was going to change perception of individuals, because that's what war did, but he didn't expect it to be so negative for the Jedi mindset. He was trying to find positivity in anything he could, and he was a little jarred by the behavior of his friend Shan. Regardless, Master Thif informed his people across the planet that they would be leaving soon, so that they could join the war against the Sith. They understood, and they began to mount up all their forces and supplies, except because of the transmission between Shan and Thif, there was something tragic that would happen. The Sith picked up on the signal and dispatched their fleet to the Copernican star system so that they could destroy the Jedi before Master Shan got there. Malgus surely didn't want another rematch with someone as vile as her. For the moment they were going to be at the star system before the Republic, it wouldn't be long before the skies opened up and from the skies rained down pain for the people of Thebes. Master Thif was sent into panic as he mounted up his troops on the rooftops and demanded that they fire at the Sith starfighters. Thif ignited his lightsaber and demanded that Meloni lead the Egyptians to the Nile and get them out of there. She questioned him, but Thif reminded her that the Nile moves south to north. It would get the people away from the civilization, keeping them safe from the possibility of being exposed to the Sith if they tried to move to Heracropolis. It would also allow the Jedi to create a defensive perimeter within the city so that they couldn't hurt individuals that were trying to flee. There weren't a ton of people of the Republic, but they needed to be enough. Because of all the time they spent on Earth, Thith got into contact with multiple civilizations across the planet and informed them to get to their safety locations. It was the best way for them to avoid absolute travesty on this planet. Thith ran through the streets of Thebes, ducking and weaving between people as blaster fire filled the sky and rockets exploded in the streets, wiping out groups of people running away in terror. Thith ran to the gates and looked out. The Sith army had already landed, and the destroyer droids were marching upon the city, blasting away, melting the walls of the ancient city. The Jedi moved to the front and ignited their weapons, deflecting the strikes from the Sith army. Republic troopers made their way to the ramparts and fired down, crushing the attacking army. Commander Von Dun rolled up behind Master Thif and told him that T-791 reported the Sith fleet over the planet. They were here to scale a planet-wide destruction and wipe out the entire population, similar to what they tried to do on Alderaan. Thif had a very noticeable fear in his face as he looked back and blocked a blaster bolt behind his head. He told Von Dun that they better hope the Republic gets here soon, because without them, their cause would be lost. Thif ripped his blade around and stepped forward before his men and the men of the Sith army. Malgus could be seen with a robe above his head behind his army. Thif told the troops to fall back into the city. They would ambush Malgus from a more defendable position. Thif used the Force to raise the city gates as he turned around and ran full speed into the city. Not long after the gates busted open and the Sith troopers poured in, they would be surprised. Before they could get past the gates, they would run over several buried landmines, blowing their ranks into smithereens. Malgus growled as he cut through the wounded with his lightsaber, killing them all, and encouraging the rest of his men to stammer forward, until they crushed the Jedi. The Sith troopers piled into the corridors, blasting away with firepower. When they saw Republic troopers, they started shooting at them. Dozens of Republic troopers fell to the ground, dying out in the dust. As the Sith troopers came up, they realized that they killed scarecrows, and before they could adjust their position, they were blasted to the ground by the Republic troopers that were outmatched and outnumbered. Master Thif leapt forward and cut through the Sith assassins. Thif called out through his comlink, asking for his Padawan and asking if she was alright. Meloni came running around the corner, deflecting blaster fire from behind her. Commander Von Dun ducked behind a crate as Thif pulled his Padawan to the side and caught a blade of a Sith Marauder and threw him to the side. Another Marauder swung viciously at Thif. The Jedi Master kicked his leg forward with his metal boot as he shattered the leg of the Marauder. Thif turned around, cutting down one of the Sith before swinging back and slicing through the next. Thif helped Melone up and directed her and Commander Von Dun to the nearby building. They moved to the roof of the building and got a look of the city. They could see a good portion of the city. It was under fire, but currently the Republic troopers and the Sith troopers were fighting in the streets. The Republic was still holding on. The Jedi and the Sith fought each other, and the sounds of the battle echoed throughout the city corridors. Thif called out to T-791 and asked if the Republic was in orbit. The little droid reported that the Republic fleet had just come out of hyperspace, and they were currently engaging the Sith. Thif knew that Malgus would retreat so that he didn't get trapped. Thif then turned around and saw Malgus walking through the battle, killing Republic troopers and his own men as he made his way back to his shuttle. He was informed that the Republic was here. It wasn't that Malgus was afraid of the Republic, he'd just rather fight the Republic on his own terms, and currently he was in gridlock with the Republic on the ground, and didn't need to risk his fleet being destroyed. Thif jumped across the building as Maloney followed her master. Commander Von Dun looked at them and told 91 that they needed to back up the rest of the men on the ground. Malgus crossed out of the Gate of Thieves as fires burned behind him, and the sound of explosions rattled the ground. Thif leapt through the top gate and heard his apprentice behind him as he turned around asking her to stop what she was doing. Before she could rebuttal, a lightsaber flew up at him, and Maloney pushed her master to the side and blocked the thrown blade of Malgus. Of course, Maloney was ready for this. She was almost a Jedi Knight before the temple fell. She jumped down to the ground and looked at Malgus. He was a warrior of the Sith, one of the best they'd ever had up until this point. Malgus pulled his lightsaber back and stepped forward, and Maloney ripped her blade forward, swinging at the Sith Lord. He backpedaled, blocking every strike by her. Thif leapt down to help a student as she swung around and parried every strike made by Malgus. He looked over and backhanded her, throwing her to the ground as Master Thif rolled up with his elbow, throwing it into Malgus's mask, jarring the breathing apparatus loose and swinging at him ferociously. Malgus's mask began to scream as air fled the pipes. Malgus held his hand out, blocking strikes while he tried to piece it back together. Thif got more and more aggressive, less of the Jedi way, more of the Sith, pushing back the Sith warrior. Malgus tumbled to the ground. The Jedi Council member held his blade forward before he heard the ignition of several more lightsabers. The Sith assassins and marauders were here. Thif turned around and saw Maloney facing them. Malgus grinned under the mask as he turned around and stood up, walking back towards his personal shuttle and retreating into space and departing from the Copernican system. Maloney and Thif stood their ground just as the Sith ran at them. Sadly, Malgus escaped, but they needed to fight their way out of this. The fighting inside the city died down, and silence filled the air. The desert could only hear the burning of lightsabers as they collided in the fury of the desert sands. Thif and Maloney bounced off of each other, using their lightsaber bond as master and apprentice to beat back the Sith. Commander Von Dun heard the commotion and ordered his men forward to assist the Jedi. They cleared up the city and it was obvious their Jedi generals needed them. The two Jedi worked hard, swinging and parrying, using the best of their strength together. The two of them were able to cut down several Sith before Thif was jabbed in the back by an assassin. Thif coughed up and tumbled to the ground, looking at his apprentice. He realized what had just happened, tossing his lightsaber to his student. She had shock on her face, watching as another Sith swung his blade down on Thif's neck, decapitating the Jedi Master. Maloney watched. A tear escaped her eye, and she caught the lightsaber, igniting her master's weapon and leaping forward, cutting down the two Sith, killing them nearly immediately. She was quick on her feet, kicking another Sith in the mask before cutting through his robes, killing him. Maloney saw out of the corner of her eyes the Republic troops arriving to assist them, and before she could make any real impact against the remaining Sith, she turned around and looked at the hand of a Sith marauder sitting just before her chest. She looked down and choked, dropping her master and her lightsaber. The Sith marauder's soulless mask grabbed her by the throat and twisted her neck, killing her instantly. Commander Von Dun cried out as he ran forward, blasting his pistols. The other Republic troopers followed him as they moved in to defend their Jedi generals. The few remaining Jedi Knights ran into action to fight off the last of the Sith. The marauders and the assassins were very easily outnumbered, and they were shot down, as if they were seated in front of a firing line. Commander Von Dun got to the two Jedi and realized they were both dead. T-791 sat at the gates of Thebes and whimpered, being able to see the decapitated head of her master lay flat on the ground, without a body next to it. T-791 knew what happened, and she had no one to take care of her now. Von Dun looked over to one of his men and told them to inform Master Shan of their coordinates. At the same time, he ordered another one of the men to get in contact with Emperor Tai Kang. His brother would be coming with them to train with the Jedi. The Republic needed it. Within an hour, the Sith fleet would have fled from Earth into the galaxy, and when Master Shan arrived, she was very saddened to hear of her friend's death. Another issue would be revealed to the Republic. Emperor Tai Kang was apparently dead of a drowning incident, and now was succeeded by his brother, meaning that the brother would not be joining them. Commander Von Dun would inform the people of Thebes that they may not return, and gave them a frequency to contact the Jedi once the war was over. The Republic would leave the ravaged city of Thebes for the Egyptians to clean up. A slight resentment would come from it, but they would also be eternally grateful to Master Thif, who gave his life in servitude to them. They would construct an obelisk in honor, attributed to their Jedi general. Earth would remain silent for decades. While the Jedi and Sith continued their war, eventually the Republic would reach out to them. Being that the planet was so young with such a young civilization, the Republic believed that it would be their best interest to help include the Copernican system into the Republic, being that the people of Earth had the opportunity to serve the Republic in a positive way. Once the war with the Sith was complete, for the time being, the Republic would firstly invest in the reconstruction of Coruscant, but they would fund resources out to off-worlds affected by the war. Being that Earth was affected by the war, the planet received its first statement of galactic realm. The Republic went in with contractors, translators, and the entire business market of the galaxy, saw Earth as a profit machine, untapped with the potential to be turned into the Alderaan of the Mid-Rim. They saw it not only as a tourist destination, but as a planet with the raw potential to become a political powerhouse in the Mid-Rim. While politicians saw Earth as a great planet to build on and create renewable infrastructure on, the ability to profit off of the few other worlds in the Copernican system was a big interest to many. For example, the Copernican system had 4 gas giants. Because these planets were all a part of the Copernican system, they belonged to the population of Earth. Businesses would go in, create deals with the people of Earth to profit off of these gas giants, and then they would build multiple Tabana gas refineries on Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Jupiter. The Republic saw the Copernican system as a cash cow ready to burst. Mining operators would start to push mining operations on Saturn's rings, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Mars, the Kuiper belt, and several moons in the Copernican system. On top of that, industrial facilities would be placed on the 2 closest planets to the Copernican system's sun, on Mercury and Venus. It wouldn't take long for the very remote civilizations of Earth to be built into an empire united. Instead of years of fighting, global domination, and years of rivalries that would fade into non-existence, the population of Earth would find a common goal to shoot for. They sought for the stars, and in the meantime, with technological advancements, tens of thousands of years in the future of what they had, they began to search the planet and discovered everything they could find. On the surface, they built massive cities, and the Council of Earth found unison in the Mediterranean and from the Yellow River. The cities that emerged resembled the architecture of Coruscant, yet had the elegance and beauty of those forged on Alderaan. The era of the Old Republic would be capped off with the beginning of the High Republic, an era of which Earth would become the foothold in the Mid-Rim. Leading several systems across the Republic, the people of Earth offered up both some of the galaxy's best politicians and some of the Jedi Order's members. The Copernican system was a cash cow and had no sight of hindering, because the entire system consistently produced galactic credits. After the contract signed and the Old Republic died out with the old businesses, the people on Earth forged new facilities that operated at a faster pace with better AI and more functional operators that worked for only Earth. Their credits jumped up exponentially. During the High Republic, the Copernican system became the site of gold rush for new businesses. With the Copernican system taking its high stand in the galaxy, and with the High Republic looking like it couldn't get any better, the future looked extraordinary for the small blue globe in the galaxy far, far away. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is part 1 of 3 in our story. Again, special thanks to Benjamin Wells, Jonathan, Pimp Daddy Bane, Icy Raptor, Apollo, Mad Manor Studios, Anakin003, and Flynn Van Seas for supporting the channel. Hit down the likes of these videos. I got tons of videos coming out before the new year. If you want to see what else, let me go below. I have comments from 2 crossovers. Check out the Twitch community, Discord, and Patreon, and so many other ways. Let's talk about part 1 of this story in a little bit of detail. So all the facts that I listed off, I'm going off of about 3,000 years ago, so it'd be about 2100 BC. BC? Yeah, BC. And so that would be the era of the first intermediate dynasty or first intermediate period in Egypt and the Shia dynasty in China. Emperor Tai Kang is a real individual, and he did get drowned, so I thought that'd be kind of fun to put into a story. I do love my history, and I tried to keep it light on the history part of this video because obviously it's a Star Wars video and it's not a history video, but I wanted it to feel immersive. I wanted you to feel like Earth is actually in Star Wars, and that's what I want to shoot for. So the Old Republic lines up perfectly in this timeline with 2100 BC Earth, which is why it takes place in ancient Egypt and the first intermediate period, which is right before all the big pyramids went up and all their great architecture. And I thought that'd be a cool place to start, and I thought that would kind of connect Thebes to Zhengzhou, which was the capital at the time of Emperor Tai Kang. So I wanted Earth to feel like it could be connected, and that's what I wanted to shoot for, is kind of connecting Earth and this boundary of, like, the Jedi come there and they're like, oh, we gotta, hide out for a little bit until we're requested to be a part of the war again. And that's what they do, and then when they're requested to be a part of the war again, by the time they're requested, they've already connected Earth to all the other civilizations. So I didn't want to go too vastly into it, which is why I didn't include, like, Mesopotamia, for example, which I believe Mesopotamia was either before this period. I can't remember. I think it was before. But that's a reason why I didn't include other civilizations. I want to focus on these two in particular because I thought it would be the most interesting, the Shia and the First Intermediate period. As for all the characters are original characters. I thought it'd be fun to have original characters for a New Republic story. People that you don't know, with Malgus being the main villain, of course, setting that up for Malgus to kind of show up in Satele Shan, which is the one that fights him in the Hope video. I made some references to that video in this video. That's an Old Republic cinematic if you haven't seen that. And then finally, to cap it all off, the ability for Earth to succeed if we all work together. A common goal always makes us stronger. Just look at the space race as a non-divisive topic. Look at the space race. That was really good. We were all focused on going to that one place, and we all put all our resources to going to that one place. So, say we're given this technology that is like maybe like 1,000 years from our future, and we were told, hey, you have all this power, have fun. And instead of hating each other, we decided to be like, oh, you know what? We don't need to hate each other, because that's what the whole point of connecting, Thebes to Zhengzhou and all the other ancient cities, because they already connected with each other. They already knew how to talk to each other, and that was the point. They began to kind of start their own United Nations without having like the whole global transport or whole global trade thing, because the Silk Road wasn't a thing yet. So that's kind of what I wanted to shoot for, is like them having this like connection that would allow them to flourish in the future as a future can. So anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this short part 1 of 3. Hope you look forward to the next 2 parts. The 2 thumbnails probably showed up at some point during this outro. Anyways, I love you all, spread the love, and always remember, my friends, may the Force be with you.